The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you.
Reese on the radio. Whack FM.
All right, ladies, buckle up. It's showtime.
Yeah. And what's going on, all you scalawags out there today? It's Friday, damn it. And I'm calling it the day of grievance today. For today's edition of the world's most hated and, dare I say, the most racist online show in America. It's the Reese on the Radio Rundown with yours truly, Mr. Reese on the Radio. Now, I'm wearing something corny. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, as many of you do, and thank you. You can't see it. This is why I always tell you, you got to go and check out the video of the show so you can see the visual aids in the program. But today, I'm wearing my friend's shirt. And the boy bought this for me. He was out with his mom. And he said, I'm going to get this shirt for Reese because I know he likes the TV show Friends. And I do. Big fan. And I've got no shame about it. Fume Drummer, happy Friday from Buffalo as well. So, I love that show. I have my favorite characters. I have even my least favorite characters on the television program. So just recently, a family chat came up where someone made mention, sweetheart, if you can remind me what the conversation was, but something about it was the 10th anniversary of the last episode, I think it was. Yeah, it must have been the 10th anniversary of the final episode of Friends came up recently. And everybody in the family chat, predominantly black, said, no black people watched Friends. And I said, that's bogus. Nonsense. But even if it were true, it doesn't matter. And then someone in the chat had to throw in, as many people in the black community do, they threw in the TV show Living Single. Now, why is that significant? Let me explain to you why. Living Single was a little TV show on the new Fox network. Fox had been around for a little while, but this was a TV show on the Fox network, and Living Single had a very famous rapper on the show named Queen Latifah. You might have even seen the cast. Here they are, right here. That is the cast of Living Single. So, Houdini, shut up, KB. Anyway, I'll get to the scallywags in a minute. Anyway, so this was the cast of Living Single. And everyone in the black community that I know of says that Friends ripped off Living Single. And I always push back, folks. I always push back. That is bull. Friends did not steal from Living Single. Even this woman right here, the black woman right there, I can't remember her name. I don't even care. This woman put out a tweet against David Schwimmer suggesting, when he tweeted, was there any other show like Friends on there? She tweeted, yeah, it's called Living Single. She is wrong. And she was on Living Single. Let me explain to you. There are several reasons why. But this is the most important reason why. Living Single bit off of Friends. And I'm the first person to tell you this. And again, I'm telling you, this is me. This is Grievance Friday. I've got some other grievances I want to get out of the way too. But this one first. Let me tell you why I know that Living Single ripped off Friends. And there's only one piece of evidence to prove it. Watch closely. After the first season of Living Single, the show had done pretty well in the ratings for, small network. But let me break this down. Living Single came out in September of 1993. Friends came out in August of 1994. Okay? Both shows were probably in development at the same time, but it was Living Single that bit off Friends. And let me prove to you how I know why. Living Single's first season, which again came out a year before, only ranked 53 in the Nielsen ratings. 53. In fact, after its first season, it never did better. It plummeted. It plummeted afterwards. It was in the 100s. Ranked 53, it plummeted to the 100s. But here's the real piece de resistance. You see this picture that everybody knows, which says, well, yeah, it eerily looks like Friends. That's bogus. There are 4 women in the cast. Kim Coles, Queen Latifah, Kim Fields, and whatever that broad's name is. Vivica, I don't know her name. Who cares? And 2 guys. Everybody knows that Friends had 3 guys, 3 girls. Everybody knows that. But again, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is this. After Living Single came out, like any other good marketing program, they put out a DVD of the first season. You can buy it and bring the girls home to your DVD player. And guess what the DVD cover looked like the year after the first season aired? Like this. There they are. Do you see any men in that DVD cover? No. Kim Coles, Kim Fields, Queen Latifah, and whatever that other black chick's name is. There are no guys here. The show Living Season, the complete first season on the top, all girls. The show was about 4 African-American women living in Brooklyn and being single, who happened to have 2 male neighbors live downstairs. That's it. These girls were the primary factor of the TV show. Not sounding like Friends anymore, is it? So Friends comes out a year later. And Friends, its first season, ranks pretty high in the Nielsen ratings. In fact, when I said 53, it's 56, by the way, where Living Single was. Friends, you want to know it ranked in its first season? 8. 8th out of all of the television shows on TV. Friends in its first season ranked 8. You want to hear something funny? It never dropped below it. It never did less than 8 in its rankings. No season for the 10 years. Living Single was out for 5 seasons. 5 seasons. It was ranked 56th, 86th, 111th, 104th, shot up a little bit, and then plummeted in its last season all the way down to 117th. Friends, on the other hand, the real show, first season ranked 8th. Next season, 3, 4, then 4, 2, 5, then 5, 8th season, ranked number 1. Dropped to 2, final season, number 5. 6 main characters, 4 main characters on Living Single, until they noticed the success of Friends, and then all of a sudden, the casting changed. And the story became about 6 single people living in Brooklyn. So that's my first grievance of the day. Somebody said Erica Alexander. Oh, okay. Formerly, oh yeah, that's right. She did do the Cosby Show. Where's Overton? Overton wasn't in that photo. Exactly. So anyway, what's up, Scallywags? Let's say hello to everybody. Michael B in the house, KB in the house, White Mike in the house, Michael A, and Fume Drummer. Fume Drummer says, if a network tried to remake those shows today, the casting would have a biracial lesbian couple or Ukrainian gambling addict who plays in a death metal band and a talking cat with psychic powers. Now, that is my first grievance of the day. My second grievance is with you. The audience. Why is it nobody told me that Sheena Easton was looking this damn good? I don't care if it's makeup. Why did nobody tell me that Sheena Easton was looking this good? Hell, why didn't anybody tell me Sheena Easton was still alive? Did you know she was still alive? I thought she was dead. I thought she had died with Olivia Newton-John. I swear, Sheena Easton is alive and she's touring. I think she's going to be in Buffalo not too soon, Fume. She's supposed to be there soon. Do you see how gorgeous this woman looks? She was born in 1959. That would make her 65? Yeah, 65. Damn, she looks good. And I don't care that that's makeup. I would still break her hip. I totally would. Give it up. Sheena Easton, baby. That's right. For your eyes only. Sheena freaking Easton. God, I can't believe that. All right, last but not least, I talked about it today on WTIC. I got to make this. I got to make this point, okay? Grandmother one another. Caitlin Clark. I talked about it today on WTIC. I don't want to feel bad for this young lady, but I just realized, and I was looking at some stuff about her earlier today, and she is going to be the person that destroys the WNBA. And I really do believe it. She will be the catalyst to the destruction of the WNBA. And I didn't realize that until I started searching around and started listening to people's reaction to her. People are running to the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. The numbers are on the rise. The attendance numbers are on the rise. And I just realized, after doing all this research this morning, that people hate her. At least the people inside the WNBA. The black people hate her. The lesbians hate her, or the LGBTQ community hates her. And the league hates her. Why? Because she's heterosexual and white. Apparently, that's not good enough. She was supposed to come in mildly attractive, if not unattractive, be really, really good at the sport, and love women. I didn't know that she was an activist enough for the sport. She's bringing heterosexuals to the game, and that's making the WNBA mad. So she may single-handedly become a catalyst into a revolt in the game, because the media is paying attention to her, that she can play so well. She's still so good at the game, but her personal life steers people away from the lesbianism or the LGBTQ stuff that they're trying to promote in the league or try to normalize. She can't be the most popular player in the sport. White, Christian, and straight? Oh my God, she's the death knell to the WNBA. Imagine if other white women who love boys decide to play. Oh, it's over for those lesbians. It's a fact. No, KB, that's not a man. Again, she's, I don't know what anybody, people say, you know, she's attractive. I guess she is. White Mike says, yeah, they're not mad about the number 2 pick, Cameron Brink, who is a tall blonde, kind of looks like Cameron Diaz, and dresses like a model. She's the one that they should hate. They totally should, but they probably want to date her. But she's the number 2. Now, I've seen some other ones. Candace Parker. I think she's a gorgeous young lady, but she didn't play all that well. I mean, if she could play like Caitlin Clark, she'd be great. Angel Reese, I think she's pretty. A little tomboyish, but she's pretty. But she's no Caitlin Clark, so they're going to hate on her. That's for the activist fan to decide. Robin, you're always going to get me with that one. I thought all WNBA players were lesbian because the league is gay as F. Michael B., it wasn't intended to be that way, but remember, when the activism started coming into the game, that's where we are. That's where we are. That's where we're always going to be. So it's unfortunate, but I want to root for the WNBA. I don't want to see a sports league go bankrupt. She could save it, but they don't want her to be the savior. I'd rather go to the dentist than watch the WNBA. Was it Shaquille O'Neal who had the great idea that they should lower the rim 2 feet so women could dunk? But I think women playing, look, this is probably the most controversial thing I can say about the sport, okay? The way women play basketball, the mobility, right? The way in which they move and maneuver on the court is awkward. It's something unnatural. When they do the ball, dribble the ball between the legs, it doesn't look natural. Unless they're really tomboyish. Like I've seen some tomboys, hold the rock. But girls just, there's an awkwardness about it. It's like watching a toddler play with a basketball. It's not attractive. It's not fluid. It's not fluid. Ain't no white woman saving basketball. They need Jordan in drag. What's next? Straight women in bowling leagues? I thought that was already happening. Is her tongue long? Is her tongue as long as her neck? Michael, I don't even know. Michael A., I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. I like my women like my coffee. Cold, black, strong, and bitter. Is her tongue as long as her neck? I don't know. That's such an awkward question. I don't even know how to... I don't think so. Anyway. Let's take care of some house cleaning today, folks. All of you are messed up. Oh, man. As I said, the Washington Times is reporting that the DNC is considering not holding the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Many people say part of the reason is Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, siding with the protesters or not holding them at bay, and the whole thing just becoming catastrophic, looking very similar to the 1968 Democrat National Convention that caused Lyndon B. Johnson to drop out of the race, of course, giving it to Nixon. So they're fearful of that. And then this happened on Fox News.
So how much do you think the Israel-Hamas situation and the Biden administration's policy or talking about that has affected numbers?
Well, let me start by saying, Brett, that I think President Biden has done a good job of supporting our ally and friend Israel. I think he made a misstep, of course, last week with holding some arms shipments, but I'm very pleased with his support. Clearly, young progressives are dismayed. And frankly, I think now the president has kind of offended those on both sides of this issue. But he can recapture that. I do believe he's principled in his support for Israel. But I'm afraid that this is looking awfully like 1968, with a lot of anger and angst and disenfranchisement that I think are going to play out on TV this summer. And it's going to be awfully contentious.
So that's Dean Phillips, former Democrat who was a presidential candidate this year, wanted to have a primary or wanted to primary the president of the United States with no luck. Now he's decided to support Joe Biden, but he's really considerate of the fact that the protests that are happening with regards to Israel, not mentioning the black revolt that's happening in the Democrat Party, but really believes that there's going to be an upset of sorts at the Democratic National Convention. So Brett Baer went on to ask this next question.
There's time to course correct.
Was in Chicago, the Democratic Convention. You think it could look a little like that?
I think it can, and frankly, I think it would be in the best interest of the Democratic Party to forego the convention this year and focus on campaigning, because I don't see any way it can be accretive to the mission of winning the next election.
Interesting. Congressman Dean Phillips, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you, Brett.
Now, many people aren't saying much about it, but there's a growing trend towards this, especially now that we know that the Robert Hur audio tape will not be released. You know, they're talking about doing this, this debate without an audience. The president's looking very weak, and they can't deal with another misstep. If it looks like there's chaos in the Democrat Party, that they're a frayed and fractured party, it's doom and gloom for the president of the United States. It's without a doubt. I mean, we can sit up here and run the numbers all day, but the optics to the regular folks, even some supporters of the president, would see that play out on television at the convention, and they would want no parts of it. They don't want to look, say, they're expecting that to be on the Republican side. And if Democrats look like that, they're just going to go, you know what, I can't. I just can't. It's just too much of a mess. And they will back out. So this Dean Phillips saying this now openly and out loud is starting to gain some momentum. So to you Libercrats out there who said, oh, I don't think that's true. Okay, I warned you. So, Dean Pfeffer, is that his real name? Didn't Castro have a painting of himself like Biden, like a Biden that you just had up? Oh, I don't know. I really didn't know that. I think it's safe to say, ladies and gentlemen, that Sean P. Diddy Coombs is finished.
New surveillance footage obtained exclusively by CNN appears to corroborate some of the allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016. A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video. There is no audio. Ventura is seen picking up a hotel phone. Combs seems to walk back to the hotel room, then returns and appears to shove her in a corner. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction.
He's finished. I mean, he's just finished. The sex trafficking thing notwithstanding, the lawsuits, the federal, and the raid at his home, that's it. That video undeniably destroys him. Even an ounce of credibility that he had is over now. It's straight out. Mama says, did he? I guess he did. Yeah. And I had so many people I talked about this and saying, oh, they just going after that black man because he made something. So I was like, he attacked a black woman. I guess she gets like no credibility there, right? And so now when you see it on video, you just have to hang your head and go, ugh. Diddy was just practicing for the Democrat convention. Good one. Good drummer, ladies and gentlemen. That was good. Yeah. I watched that as soon as I saw it. I just went, no, what is this? I never seen all this before. Yeah, that's a wrap. And people are posting pictures with him with, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Oprah, all the likes, the usual suspects. Yeah, it's not looking good. Like, people are gonna have to distance themselves from him but that video alone, even if none of the other allegations pan out, even if none of them hold true, he's never held accountable. Forget about. Look, where's Ray Rice today, folks? Where's Ray Rice? Anyone? You caught on camera putting your hands on it. And have you ever seen Cassie, that skinny little girl? When she's on the ground, he kicks her twice. I mean, what you see in that short video, Chris Brown must be going, I ain't do all that. I mean, let's be serious. I thought that was footage of the congressional committee. Am I right, y'all? Why does it come out now? Kind of like Trump's Billy Bush interview. It gets buried until something triggers it. Yeah, it's interesting because the hotel was probably holding on to it because, you know, it's P. Diddy. And then all the allegations come out, and then, of course, the floodgates open. Then everybody has got, you know, oh, I've got a story to tell. You know, everybody starts piling on. You know, he didn't tell it to serve cold. Goodness gracious. Did he have that bath towel glued on? That was pretty interesting. If you don't mind, I'm going to play it again. It was pretty interesting because he held on to that bath towel. It's a hotel bath towel. I mean, he manages to do a lot, dragging her for crying out loud while holding the towel.
New surveillance footage obtained exclusively by CNN appears to corroborate some of the allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016. A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video. There is no audio. Ventura is seen picking up a hotel phone. Combs seems to walk back to the hotel room, then returns and appears to shove her in a corner. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction.
I mean, just a level of abuse. You got to go into hiding now. You just do. Everywhere you go, it's going to be like, yo, what happened there? And you're kicking her twice. It's like one is like kicking her in the rear end and then walking up to it and doing a stomp in her rear end. Now, I know he's got his, you know, just his socks on, but goodness gracious, he's a grown man. She's like practically 115 pounds. And like Diddy with his dad bod on her. I mean, you look at that scene where he kicks her right here. First he swoop kicks her, and then grabs her bags, and then walks over and does the one stomp kick. I'm like, goodness gracious. As soon as I saw it, I was like, is he insane? Now, she claims he was drunk at the time, but okay. Probably on Ciroc. But damn. Disgusting. Was ever, yeah, not arrested at all. Not arrested at all. No charge. And I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on that, but that is an assault caught on camera. The fact that the hotel had it, knew it happened, didn't release it or didn't report it. I mean, maybe I guess nothing will really happen to them. I hope BLM shows up and protests Diddy. Yeah, right. Speaking of other ne'er-do-wells, you do know that CNN on June 27th is going to be holding the first of the presidential debates of 2024. And it's going to be held by these two, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. And many people are worried about Joe Biden having a debate against Donald Trump. But as you all know, it is not going to be a debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It will be a debate between Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and Donald Trump. Joe Biden will be allowed to skate through. But for you Libercrats who think that that's not possible and they'll be fair and balanced over at CNN during this debate, well, let's go back down memory lane. I always believed that history should be our guide.
In fact, it wasn't even a debate. It was a disgrace, primarily because of President Trump lying, maliciously attacking the son of the vice president.
You just took the words out of my mouth. You used some high-minded language. I'm just going to say it like it is. That was a shit show.
The president does not think he's going to win this election, and he wants to bring the rest of us down with him.
There's a lot for President Biden to tout. Americans don't seem to be giving him the credit. Why is that, and what does he have to do to turn that around? He certainly met the moment they wanted him to be a fighter. And boy, fight did he deliver. Trump's claim about Biden orchestrating the trial is baseless. Allegations with absolutely no evidence that he was making against President Biden, that he is behind all of the prosecutions. There's no evidence that Joe Biden was involved. There's no evidence, absolutely no evidence, that Biden himself was involved. Donald Trump is now the presumptive Republican nominee for president. U.S. intelligence agencies are reportedly preparing to share classified briefings with him. Should Donald Trump receive intelligence briefings?
Congressman Brian Mast, a Republican from Florida, who lost his legs, by the way, fighting for democracy abroad, although I don't know about his commitment to it here in the United States. And we are waiting for former President Trump to make his first formal remarks. We're not carrying his remarks live because, frankly, he says a lot of things that are not true and sometimes potentially dangerous. Now the Trump presidency is coming to an end. It has been a time where truth and fact were treated with disdain. It is a time of cruelty, an era of just plain meanness. For tens of millions of our fellow Americans, their long national nightmare is over.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, your debate moderators on CNN, unbiased, fair, proven, over at CNN. Can't wait for this debate. Can't wait. It's actually going to be all over the place. Okay, this one is personal to me. You know, I love talking about the black vote in this election. And speaking of Dana Bash, she was talking to a guy by the name of Zolan Kano-Youngs, who is a New York Times writer. I didn't know this guy. I've never read an article by him on the New York Times. But again, his name is Zolan Kano-Youngs. And he took me back to a time that I totally forgot, a time that I really, really forgot back in my youth. And I didn't know. I guess at the New York Times, they're hiring all kinds. I always thought the New York Times reporter was the straight-laced, tie guy. Maybe he had a pen in his mouth, smoked a cigar, was a beat writer. But apparently that look is different. But here's Dana Bash talking to Zolan Kano-Youngs about black support with the Biden campaign.
And Zolan, I want you to look at some of what Kayla was just talking about. First, let's just go back to 2020 and the actual vote.
Now, you see that? I mean, I kept saying to myself that a New York Times reporter is on CNN with a high top fade, like a way high top, like that's a New York Times reporter. He looks like a failed 80s rapper. And as I'm looking at him, I'm wondering, I wonder what's on his mind as he's sitting in the CNN studio. Oh, yeah. He's probably thinking about doing the Kid and Play kick step. Yeah, do this my way.
Black voters, Biden got more than 75% of them. And when you just look at the subset of 18 to 29-year-old voters, 24%. Now, that's an actual vote. Now we're just looking at polls. And he is down in the polls to 49%. Now, we know that for lots of reasons, polling in the black community, political polling, has been fraught, and maybe the sample sizes haven't been big enough to get a true sense.
Meaning they don't really poll a lot of black people. And black people don't want to do polling. They say, hey, would you like to do a poll? And like, no, thank you.
But as we talk about that, I also want to talk about what you have reported. As recently as last week, you and your colleagues have a story. The Justice Department recommends easing restrictions on marijuana. And part of what you talk about in there is that was a policy decision intended as an outreach, not just to African-American voters, but to young voters in particular.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, yes, it's early and we're looking at polling here, but one, I can tell you that these numbers have the attention of some of Mr. Biden's closest political advisors, some of President Biden's closest political advisors. They are worried about this frustration thus far because this very much is the base of the party. And in a way, sort of scrambling for different policy achievements now that you can show that can energize not just voters in the black community, which is obviously not a monolith, but specifically young black voters.
Yeah. He then went on to talk about marijuana legislation because, the brothers love that. I get it now. The news has become the news. Yes, Johnny, it has. CNN house party. Right. It's not Joe Biden, it's the million in the backside. Fox would play always play a Biden speech if he just gave one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's a nerdy kid in play, Michael B says. He's desperately clinging to the 12% African DNA. If he had a good hair in his life, it would be different. Right, Mike? You're absolutely right. I think that he has too much what they call nappy hair, that he had to put it in that style. And he thought, I guess, that would sort of give him some sort of interest. It's like having a tattoo on your face. Kind of looks like the dude from Digital Underground, too. Good point. I like that. That one was for me personally. As soon as I saw his hair, I went, what is this? I had a field day putting that clip together. In other Michael Cohen news, ladies and gentlemen, of course, people are trying to spin it this way and spin it that way. I want to give you two completely diametrically different views on this. A guy by the name of Randy Zellin on CNN, he says, without a doubt, Michael Cohen has effed up.
Recoverable for the prosecution?
No. Can I stop there, or do you want me to keep going?
You can elaborate. You've earned the right to elaborate.
Michael Cohen, thank you. Michael Cohen had one job to do, and that was to put Donald Trump in the room and to have Donald Trump part of the conversation concerning the making of false entries in the books and records of the Trump organization in order to influence the election. False entries are the misdemeanor, elevated to a felony because it's in furtherance of another crime, which is election interference, election fraud. He had one job to do, and he couldn't do it on something so simple. Tell us about a conversation. And the worst part of it is on direct, he sounded so convincing. He sounded so smooth, so good. It was such a good day for the prosecution, describes the conversation, and then completely shoots the pooch where it looks like that conversation actually never happened. Done.
I will say this, as someone who spends a lot of time with these transcripts as part of my side hustle here, that conversation right there was actually only one of several conversations that Michael Cohen testified to. It was the shortest one, and it was the least perhaps important in telling the story about how, according to Michael Cohen, Donald Trump approved of the payments of Stormy Daniels, knew about how they were organized and whatnot. That call was on October 24th. On October 26th, Michael Cohen testified in great detail about a longer conversation he had with Trump where he talked about actually setting up the bank account. So
now, this is the part I don't seem to understand, right? So they know that he screwed up on the 24th. And now they're banking on the 26th. But that cross-examination hasn't come yet. So what happens on Monday if it turns out on the 26th they have another set of text messages that don't coincide with his testimony? It blows everything up, doesn't it? What if they're just sitting idly by while everyone is going, yeah, but he still got the 26th, right? And then that comes back and it says, Michael Cohen, didn't you do this on the 26th and completely nail him? That's the part that drives me crazy. So here's MSNBC. When everybody else is talking about the Perry Mason moment, MSNBC, they're not giving up the goods. This isn't that bad.
Danny, let's bring you in here. How significant a moment was that? I mean, does that really give the jury something to doubt here?
It's significant, but I appear to be in the minority. A lot of folks seem to think this was a devastating blow for the prosecution. Mm-hmm. I don't see it that way. I doubt the prosecution sees it that way. I would bet the defense doesn't even consider it that. Michael Cohen is a cooperating witness. By definition, he's a guy who has credibility issues. So when you're asking him about a phone call, and if you catch him they're going to say in a lie or maybe forgetting what the reason was for his phone call 8 years ago. A couple things could happen. The jury might think, oh, he's concealing it, which is bad for the prosecution, or they may just conclude it was 8 years ago. He just doesn't remember.
Not if his direct testimony is emphatic. Not if he's in the direct saying, yep, I did it on this day, this is who I called, and this is the conversation, and then on redirect saying, well, maybe I don't remember it well. Give me a break. Give me a break. Yes, Johnny, I do. I really do have a lot of fun in my work. Thank you. Dr. Fauci is in the news, ladies and gentlemen. And if you haven't heard this, folks, yeah, they're running out of a straw to grasp on. Dr. Fauci is in a little bit of a bit of a bind. It's in a little bit of a bind. I don't know how far this is going to go. I don't even believe that anyone's really going to go after him. But he's truly in a bind. Now, on Monday's show, and I know White Mike probably has this info before I do. Sokolowski in the house. What's up, buddy? White Mike probably knows this story better than I do, but I'm getting the research on it. Before I play this clip, I'm going to give you a little background. So, I think when I was four? Yeah, when I was 4. I was 4 years old. I'm not exactly sure why. But the stories have always been mixed. But at 4 years old, I was put into foster care for 4 years. I was in Queens at the time. I was in South Jamaica, Queens. Still remember the address, 119-14, 144th Street. I was in there for 4 years. I went to PS 123, and I was in foster care. I think I visited my mom, or my mom visited me maybe 2 to 3 times. When I was 8 years old, I was finally sent back to live with my mom, which I didn't until I was kicked out when I was 15 years old. But I was in the foster care system, as was my older sister, Christina, and my little brother, Charles, lived with me when he was very young. He was about a year old when he finally came and lived with us as well. And we loved our foster parents. Helen and Oliver Patterson were our foster parents. So to hear this story that I'm about to tell you really did something to me. Like it really got at me. And I'm not that kind of guy who hears something and it pulls at my heartstrings. It didn't pull at my heartstrings. This made me mad. Like I've never been this angry. Ever. So apparently there is a story that involves Dr. Fauci and NIH that says in the early 90s, NIH was giving 7 very toxic age drugs to foster kids. Ten children died. In fact, many believe that other children died much later, but because these foster children were wards of the state, NIH did not have to go through their parents in order to give them this drug. It's the Tuskegee experiment. It's what it is. They claimed that they were giving these kids HIV medication because it was suspected that they had HIV. They had reason to believe the children had HIV. There was no documentation that the children do. In fact, when asked, several people asked, the NIH made them go through every hurdle to get any information, and they eventually never gave it up. So they were running, and we're talking about a lot of drugs. AZT was even one of them listed. No, I'm not saying I didn't make any special calling. No, okay, I didn't. Yeah, again, thank you, Michael B. That's when I saw that, the first thing that was running to my mind was, are you kidding me? Reese received the drug. Look at the side effect. He's only 32 years old. Dude, that's not even nice. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. Michael B says Fauci needs to go to prison. He's pure evil. It is malicious, KB. It is. Everything about this is, I mean, this is, I say it all the time with the sex change operations that the Boston Children's Hospital is doing to Dr. Fauci and NIH. Dude, this is Mengele type stuff. You see this stuff in the old World War II German, war films or propaganda videos, and then you say it's like, wow, that would never ever happen. Never happen again. This was in the 90s. So I'm going to play that video on Monday to give that breakdown. That being said, Dr. Fauci was at Columbia on the 15th talking to the science graduates, where he said this.
You have been trained in science. Embrace it and beware of the insidious nature of anti-science. During the past 4 years, we have witnessed an alarming increase in the mischaracterization, distortion, and even vilification of solid evidence-based scientific findings and of scientists themselves. At the same time, conspiracy theories arose that became intermixed with these anti-science sentiments. The net result, understandably, was that public confusion was sowed and trust in evidence-based public health principles was eroded.
Yeah. Dr. Fauci, commencement speech at Columbia University. And then this happened.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Did NIH fund gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology through EcoHealth?
It depends on your definition of gain-of-function research. If you're speaking about the generic term, yes, we did, but this is research. The generic term is research that goes on in many, many labs around the country. It is not regulated, and the reason it's not regulated is it poses no threat or harm to anybody.
Yeah, no threat or no harm to anyone, huh? Then somebody has got to explain this. Guy by the name of David Morantz, who's been the advisor to Dr. Fauci for some 20 years at NIH. James Comer read his emails in the same hearing. They went a little something like this.
Shifting to some questions regarding NIH's document retention policies. Dr. David Morantz, a senior advisor to Dr. Fauci for decades, wrote in an email to Dr. Daszak, quote,
Dr. Peter Daszak, the head of Eco Alliance that was funding gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab, just so everybody's up to par, right? So everybody's up to code here. Peter Daszak, EcoHealth, gain-of-function research, Wuhan lab, in cahoots. Here's David Moran's email to Peter Daszak.
I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I am FOIA'd, but before the search starts. So I think we are all safe. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them to Gmail, end quote. Is that consistent with NIH document retention policies?
It is not.
Does the NIH FOIA office teach employees how to avoid transparency?
I certainly hope not.
He also later wrote Dr. Daszak, and I quote, we are all smart enough to know to never have smoking guns, and if we did, we wouldn't put them in emails. And if we found them, we would delete them, end quote. Is that consistent with NIH document retention policies?
It is not.
Finally, emails show that Dr. Morantz would share internal discussions regarding upcoming FOIA releases with Dr. Dassett. He would then help Dr. Dassett craft responses to documents being released in these FOIAs. Are those actions consistent with NIH policies?
If those actions occurred, they would not be consistent.
So do these actions concern you, Dr. Tabak?
It does indeed.
What is Dr. Moran's current employment status?
He is an employee of NIH.
So he needs to come find that dude and put him in handcuffs. Johnny says, rotten monsters all. Fauci needs to befriend Hildebeest. Yeah. Yes, Island of Dr. Moreau. I mean, what are you going to say after all of that? And I want to say this to all of you Libercrats out there. Remember, trust Dr. Fauci. Buy the doll. Listen to the science. He is the science. Right? Remember? We don't know what we're talking about. I listened to the experts, you said. Yes, you did. I remember. I remember you ran out there and got them shots and got them boosters. I remember it well. I remember you taunting the rest of us. Well, you end up dying when yeah. Now shortness of breath. Seeing your doctors about swelling on the heart. Huh? Yeah. Eco Alliance, yeah. Was it Fauci technically didn't lie? He provided the funds to Eco Alliance. Yeah, but, he said that we never funded him. They did. I mean, Eco Alliance, we even know that they first tried to do it with the Defense Department. And then when they refused because they were concerned about a leak, that's when they ended up going to the Wuhan lab. I can't wait until the Trump revenge tour. Fauci is high on the list. Might be. Dr. Palpatine. I love that. I am the science. Yeah, he needs the firing squad after what he all went through with COVID. Look, I'm not, look, I want him held accountable. And not that it will ever happen, but this can't go to Congress. This has got to be, Rand Paul asked the DOJ to pretty much go after Dr. Fauci, and they refused. But, if Dr. Fauci sticks around for a couple of years, and you're right, Fume, if indeed Donald Trump gets in there, I'm pretty sure he's going to direct the Department of Justice. Whatever this guy is responsible for, whatever he did to the American people, whatever he was, find it. Get to the bottom of it and make sure that at least the American people get justice for what they had to endure. A lot of lives were affected by him and the nonsense. And he played partisan politics. And there may be some old stuff too. Like I said, I'm going to play that video about the foster care program in the NIH on Monday. And like I said, I have to watch. I have to finish watching the video today. It's not even that long, but I have to watch the video later on tonight, which I'm going to do in tomorrow. I'm going to watch some other videos on it because apparently people knew, and news reports were about it, and they still never held the guy accountable. So, yeah. And we went to the moon, but lost our data. But lost all data. Does that make any sense to anyone? We can go there, but every country, yeah, I know. It's, what are you going to do? I know I promised I'd get you guys out of here early as I always do on Friday, but I did not. Don't forget to check out the show on Sunday as well. And I hope you guys did check out the show earlier today. But anyway, we'll be back on Monday as usual. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow, because we hope to see you back here tomorrow too. I love you guys. Be good.